Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm so happy to be here with all of you. Today, we want to go through the pathway, but talking about it from the lens of the emotional well-being and the entire patient perspective, physical, emotional, spiritual, social pieces of your life that are impacted as you're going through this long journey. So I want to start with my panelists and give you guys a few minutes to introduce yourselves.
Yes. Hi there, Mema. And hello, everyone. I'm Sherry Hughes, and I'm a breast cancer survivor, HER2 positive breast cancer survivor. And I'm just glad to be able to still be among the land of the living.
What a blessing to be alive, right? And to be able to be here. We take this life for granted at times, and breast cancer just kind of stops you in your tracks and makes you realize what is possible, and just the blessing of just waking up in the morning, having breath, having possibilities, and also loving to serve, so this is just a blessing to have all of you.
My name is Marnae Colston-Jackson. I am one of the clinical nurse educators. I've been a nurse for 22 years, and all of it has been in oncology. I previously worked as a treatment nurse at Cleveland Clinic for 15 years. Then I went on to work into industry, working at Puma now, and actually helping with patient advocacy, helping with educating all of the patients and all of the healthcare providers on what's next, what's new, what's up and coming. I really enjoy my job. I really enjoy traveling, being able to tell people what's coming new, what's coming out, what we can do.
I never had a clinical nurse educator, and so having people that do what you do is such a blessing. Thanks for all of that. Next, my girl Neosho.
My name is Neosho Ponder, and I was diagnosed in 2016 with ER/PR negative, HER2 positive, stage 2B breast cancer, and I'm just happy to be here. Oh, I don't have kids or pets. I live alone, but there is a very loud construction site right next door, so there's never a dull moment.
So let's begin with one question first. When you began, when you learned you had HER2 positive breast cancer, the treatment options you had to go through. I'll start with Neosho. What are the things that you thought about emotionally, that in terms of how would you manage the therapy and your life, and what that would feel like for you?
I think my first thought was like, really, God? Really? That was my first thought, I think. I was diagnosed 1 year after finishing my doctorate at Howard University. And, I didn't think anything of it. At first, I was like, okay, I'm just ready to fight, right? Because I'd already had the conversation with God. But I was really, two things I asked my doctor. I asked if I could have children one day, and if I could donate blood. I am AB positive, my blood type, so it's rare. We're the universal recipient. The immediate thought was like, will I be able to have kids, and would I be able to donate blood?
Thank you for sharing that. Something that we just hearing how you're talking about it, I know that there's a myriad of emotions that are beneath what you just said. Sherry, did you have a similar experience, or if not, what was your experience emotionally dealing with your diagnosis of HER2 positive?
Thank you, Mema. Actually, when I first heard the words, it is cancer, you have cancer, I was really blown away. And I was blown away because there was nothing wrong with me. There was no lump, there was no bump, there was no sickness. Yeah, I was kind of like a super girl, running about 10 to 20 miles a week and swimming a mile a week, and eating healthily, and diet, nutrition, big part of who I am. But I lost my mom to breast cancer when I was a young girl, and so I always knew there was a possibility that I could be diagnosed with breast cancer. But I was doing everything possible to thwart that, to stay healthy. So I thought. So when I was first told that this is the diagnosis, I literally, the first question I think that I asked my oncologist was, am I going to live? That was the first question. I was not, surprisingly, really afraid. I was just, thirsty for knowledge and information, because I knew that, I knew that God was in control, really, because similar to Neosho, she's saying, okay, God, well, God and I had a conversation when I lost my mom. And when I asked him, I never asked God to not let me have breast cancer. Please, God, don't let this happen to me. But what I did ask him was, if this ever is to be a part of my life, please, God, please just let me know. Inside, deep inside, I knew that God had me. I really did. I just needed now to go through the process. And so, it's an awakening, really. And what it really does is it not only awakens you, it shakes you, and then it drives you and takes you into a level of, I'm going to fight, I'm going to beat this, and then God, I'm really going to live.
I love every single word that you just said, because it's interesting when of course, breast cancer is disruptive and all these things that happen as a result. But I realized when I was diagnosed, I could have lived, 50, 60, 70 years living an ordinary life, which I was, very ordinary life, just thinking I had limitations, or I can't do this, or I'm stuck in this situation. And then breast cancer kind of just broke me out of that. And it was a huge awakening into who I became. My purpose manifested through my breast cancer diagnosis. It was already there, but I had no idea. Back to Neosho, what kind of things work for you to cope? I know you had your spirituality, which you mentioned, but there's so many things that come with, life or death, and, the feelings around your therapy, things that happen to your body, and, not being able to have children. And you breezed over that, but that's a huge thing to absorb. So how did you learn to cope, and what did you use as coping mechanisms?
I think my sense of humor actually helped me. I'm not a comedian, and people literally look at the cover of my book and think that I'm a comedian. I'm like, no, actually God is. Right? That's the first line of my book. For those who haven't read it, literally, that's pretty much the first line of the book. And I am not, I'm a very much an optimist, and I'm a glass half full kind of person. I just laughed, and I think my laughter, at the irony of it all, kind of gave me a little bit of comfort, and also direction, because it's not just my spiritual side and my faith, but also things that I've just innately been born with, like my sense of humor, my ability to have this positive outlook. And my mom is very much a pessimist. Like, Pam is hilarious, but she's a pessimist, and she just, she's one of those, you gonna die, type people. And she is. And so I always been that person, even growing up. But, my family is funny, on my mom's side, also having a village, because I lived, here in DC for so many years before being diagnosed. But but having that, the support system, and I can't take God out of it, because I think he brought these angels to me, to where, I was like, I didn't have a full-time job my entire time of treatment and surgeries. That was about 3 years, right? And I didn't miss a bill. I'm missing way more bills now than I was then, like, I mean, full disclosure, and I didn't miss a bill. I was able to pay my car off when I got my first full-time job in 2019, because I had paid my car payment every month through friends,
Powerful.
family, not really family prayed, but mainly my friends, my sorority sisters, my church. But also it reminded me of who I am, whose I am, and those things that I was already born with. And I needed to tap into those things.
It's such a powerful thing. All that you just said was so powerful. One of my girlfriends, when I was going through treatment, I had to get help. My family just rallied around me, same thing, but I'm used to doing things myself. And I used to always taking care of myself and doing things. And I had to get help with even going to the bathroom sometimes, helping myself, like just walking around, or just getting help with my daughter, and with food, and with all the things that we need to get through treatment, just getting people to drive me and so forth. And one of my girlfriends called me and she said, Mima, God wants you to rest in him. Don't rest in him. Imagine you're a baby and he's holding you in his arms. Just rest in him. It's okay to allow people to love you. And as Black women, we don't often allow that. We got it. We're strong. And just for me, that transformed the way I thought. My life literally changed in the moment. I imagine myself with God holding me in his arms, letting me I just to rest and allowing my family and friends to care for me and give me the love I've given them for so many years, to honor me. And it's really learning how to give what you get, what you've given out. It's a circle, right? People want to love you if you let them in. And so, and then you get to see what love looks like that you don't even know it's there because you just kind of doing it yourself. So God is asking us to receive him as well, right? Throughout the journey, let me take care of you. And what a beautiful word, Neosho. You're so amazing. Sherry, what are some of the things that you relied on for emotional well-being through your journey?
Well, first and foremost, I am just so blessed to have such a wonderful circle of family, my husband, my girlfriends. I mean, they just rallied behind me, and they were always there, my sister Barbara and my brother Hampton. But one of the things that are some of the things actually that just was innately inside of me as a part of who I am that extrovert as well. And my story is a little different in that my diagnosis came in 2019. I was on air, an on-air personality with millions of people that were viewing and watching our news programs and whatnot every day. And I had a huge, robust social media family as well, and I'm very active that way as well. So for me, what I chose to do really, and it wasn't even a question about it, I just chose to really lean into the diagnosis with acceptance first. With anything, the moment you accept what is your lot, what you have to go through, then from that point on, you really can begin to battle, because you don't want to be fighting yourself, being in denial and saying, no, this isn't me. This isn't me. And it's okay, I think, to ask those questions like why, whatnot, but you can't stay in that place very long. You have to come out of it, and you have to be accept, and then for me, being very transparent. I wanted to make sure that what was going on to me, what was happening to me was not really happening to me, it was happening for me. It was an opportunity for me now. I didn't know. I said, you know what? I don't know the future. I don't know what the next day or month or year is going to bring. But what I'm going to do now is be very present. I'm going to be very present and aware, and I'm going to make sure that I share my story, because I knew, unlike when my mom was going through it and I was, a young girl and feeling all of the emotions and all of the trauma from losing a mother. It took me years to be able to really cope, because I was, I'd lost my mother. But through that, I didn't realize that God was already working a work in me, and he was, helping me to take that experience and now leverage it to be able to help others out there. I knew that if I never lived another day, I wanted my life to mean something. I wanted to be able to help others. And so that's where I am today. And there's a lot of things that got me to it. And I know we're going to be discussing all of those things, but, positive thinking. Absolutely at the very top, being positive and being faith driven, and also being an advocate for myself, knowing that now that I'm in this space, I'm going to have to ask questions. I'm going to have to talk to people and tell them how I feel. I'm going to have to remind them to stop talking around me and talk to me. I'm going to have to dispel myths. I have friends, people that would call and say things like, girl, I heard you had the big C, and I would denounce that. No, the only big C I have is Christ. Stop trying to get that negative vibe into, into my spirit. I had to teach people how to treat me. Amen. And then when they realized that I wasn't sitting around feeling sorry for myself, then they couldn't even understand why I was walking through, the valley of the shadow of death, the way that I was walking through. They couldn't understand it because I refused to be a victim. I know that each and every day in this world, somebody is diagnosed with something. And you know what? I knew that, now that this is me, what am I going to do? what am I going to put out there? What am I going to display? You know, when my face becomes, if it becomes a looking glass, then it will be because, you know what? Boy, she sure did a lot. She did a lot with what she, you know, was dealing with, and she helped a lot of people. That's what I wanted to be my legacy, you
Amen.
know, because I don't know anybody that's ever lived forever, and I wasn't focusing on that, but I knew that I wasn't going to focus either on death. I was going to live and do all I could do as long as I could do it.
All of that, all of that. We're in church right now. I mean,
Yeah,
the only big C you had in your life was Christ.
it's
Amen.
Christ.
Amen. That is a word. That is a word. And your
Yes.
the legacy that you built based, sometimes things happen to you. And you said that things really happened for you. And
Yeah.
look at all the pain you went through losing your mother, and how you taken that legacy of pain and made it into purpose to help others, that they may live and have
Yeah.
access to the things that you didn't have access to for her. And using your voice and your platform to preach and to praise and to be purposeful. That is so powerful. Thank
And you know,
you.
Mayla, I want to say when I did lose my mother, I felt powerless then because we didn't know about any cancer or breast cancer. It wasn't in our family. You know, it wasn't anything that we really knew about. And I remember thinking back then that I wish I could have helped her more. I wish I could have done more. And years after that, and I just applaud you for starting, you know, Tigerlily and having the fortitude to take it there.
That is so powerful. And I receive what you said. How can I serve other people? And literally in the middle of treatment, I began Tigerlily. And people said that you're crazy. What are you doing? You're sick. I said, I'm not sick. Maybe y'all are, but I'm not. There's emotional sickness, and there's like, I'm not gonna receive that. And I remember laying in bed with the computer. It's a picture of me laying in bed, creating the foundation, because I knew that by serving others, I would live. As a nurse, clinical nurse educator, what are some things you've seen people do to cope? Because Neosho and Sherry are just like everything. But are there things you've seen that you could share with our audience in terms of people who've gone through this and how they managed to deal with the journey?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, you guys touched base on the religious aspect of it. We they offer Reiki, some meditation, things like that. A support system is so important. Some people think that they don't need support systems, especially with some African Americans. They don't want to go see counseling or go to support systems and things of that nature. But I think it's important that all the resources and tools are available. And that we can utilize those tools that are available. We have a mentorship program. The mentorship programs, I know Sherry's involved in one. You can talk to someone that's gone through that. You don't want to do that I wish I could have syndrome. You want to make sure that, people are aware of what's going on, and you want to give them an example. I went through this treatment. I went through this. This is something you may feel, and don't be afraid to talk to your healthcare providers. And that's why they have multidisciplinary teams, not just the doctor. They have the dietitians involved, the social work. We never want you to be in a position where you have to pick between medication and eating. So, take advantage of those tools. There's different companies out there that will help you get you that medication, provide you that medication for free. So, it's important that you communicate and you talk with others so you know what's out there for you and what's new. There's new medications coming out all the time, and it can be emotional. Yes, it can very be emotional, but we have to know that there's a care plan involved, and there's a journey involved, and there's an order to everything. So, and it's okay to write things down and ask lots of questions.
Marnae, also, we don't often talk about this a lot, but when you get breast cancer, even when you are in treatment, you have a pathway and you're told you're going to be okay. People get depressed. I know that I was severely depressed because people were just like fighting with me and for me on my behalf. I didn't think that I could say I felt depressed. And when treatment ended, people were like, okay, you rang the bell, you're fine now. But then you're looking at, well, what's next? And so can you talk a bit about how can we help patients navigate that? The truth of that, even though we're faithful, we believe in God, we are moving in our purpose, but there's still that human feeling And how do we learn to ask for that? And how do you help people ask for that and get that support?
Yeah, it's important that people are aware of survivorship. So survivorship takes place from day one. And then you want to continue to talk to your navigators, your patient navigators, your social workers, and you want to become involved in some of those support systems that they have. We have what is called Hope Lodge that is local in the Cleveland area, and they help patients cope. They have different seminars that they have available, but we have to get over that stigma that when you ask for help, there's that you're crazy or it's something. We have to get over that stigma as African Americans, that it's okay to ask for help and it's okay to accept it. And I think, we have to look at that as, when you look at it, they said something is wrong, it's an imbalancement, or there's nothing wrong with seeking help. And I think we have to be able to do that. And we have to know some of the tools and some of the resources that are available. And it's really up to us to advocate that and to make sure that people are aware of what's out there. There's many different drugs that come out every year, new drugs, things that can be taken by mouth, and people can still do whatever way of life that they want to, but people aren't aware of those things. There's a lot of clinical trials that are out there, but a lot of African Americans are afraid to be on some of the clinical trials because of what happened previously to some of us. So therefore, we're not aware of some of the benefits and some of the resources. So that's why I'm working out here to make sure that people are aware of some of the things that are going on, some of the benefits, some of the tools, some of the things that we can work with, some of the psychosocial economic things that people go through as well.
So I want to kind of delve now into surgery and how we deal with that, because when you have surgery, you think about your body being changed, right? Maybe you lose a breast or two. Some people lose, their ovaries as well, and other things. And there's like lymphedema and all these side effects. How do you help patients manage the anxiety of not knowing whether they're going to have a complete response after surgery and or neoadjuvant treatment? And how do you prepare them to deal with that process? Marnae.
Well, sometimes we'll go through surgery, go through chemo, and then, we think it's all gone, and sometimes it's not. And so therefore, that's why we have like these individual care plans for these patients, because everyone's different. You may not have to go through a surgery. Sometimes we go through a surgery to make the tumor smaller. So that's why it's important that we're talking to individuals and seeing, what is that journey that you're going through? Because everybody doesn't go through that same journey. What journey are you going through? And sometimes it's very hard because, you think you're done, you're hitting that bell, but of course there's something else. There's a new drug maybe that came out. There's a new something else that's coming out. So therefore, that's why you have that survivorship and you have the individualized care plan. So from the beginning, you should know, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do the surgery, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to do this. And I'm going to continue to make sure I'm following up with my mammograms and I'm doing everything that I need to do. And then I'm into the support groups, because they can tell you some of the new things that are out. Sometimes people tell you the things and not even your healthcare providers will tell you. But until there is a curative solution, we always have to be on alert of what's out there.
So Marnae, in your job is to help the patient understand the clinical aspects of cancer and also the emotional. Tell me about your role, because I don't want to go glaze over. It's such an important role.
Yes.
Share a bit about that, please. Thank you.
So my role basically is to go and I'm not only educate, I educate the healthcare providers as well. I also can go to support groups and talk to them. I can talk to them about different medications, how they work, what side effects to look for, what's new going out, what breast cancer actually means, and kind of how to read the pathology reports, what's important on those pathology reports, because with all the new medications coming out, there's different medications that people will take based on what the pathology report comes up, what mutated gene and what tests that you've actually tested for to see if you're actually positive for that or not. So, it's a lot of targeted therapies out there now, immunotherapies and all of that, things like that So it's based on your pathology report, which one you're actually, gonna actually be a recipient of.
We need people like you in this world and in this space, because one minute you're, on the news, one minute you're in a school, one minute you're, for me, doing my job being a mom, and then you hear these words, you have breast cancer, and there's so much information to absorb, and you have to make these life-altering decisions in a matter of weeks. And if you don't have someone like yourself to explain to people, here's what this means, look at that, don't overlook that, pay attention to this thing, this is what, so that they have the right tools to inform their treatment pathway. And also just tools on what to ask for. I didn't know that I could get certain services or support systems. And I didn't know it was okay to tell people how I really felt. I was taught to be strong and push through. So just like, you're just a blessing in your job, and we need more like you. All righty. So for our patients, how did you all feel after you've had, if you had surgery, how'd you deal with that and the emotions around what to expect around surgery, treatment, all of that? Because it's not just like people say like, I had surgery, treatment, and da, 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 but it's a lot for us to go through every single day, and not knowing what to expect, before surgery, during and after, and then the follow-up treatment and all that. How did you manage the longer term side effects of surgery and Neosho?
Well, my surgical history is quite robust. So in addition to a double mastectomy, which I chose because I wanted my boobs to look alike, one of God's many jokes in my journey. But I have 2 different types of reconstruction flaps on my person right now. So having 2 different flaps, it brought on its own set of emotions and shock. I'm not that part. Like when someone says there's less than 1% of blah blah blah, well, I already know I'm not in the 1%, right? I already don't know if I can have kids, and now you're telling me that my boobs aren't gonna be working like they're supposed to and look right and all these things. And so as time went on and the more research I had done, I had the deep flap surgery in February of 2018 and ended up in ICU for a week because one of the flaps failed. And that was a quite dramatic and traumatic experience. Everything. I didn't know what that sharp pain was, right? And I kept saying, because you're supposed to feel like you got hit by a truck, right? So aches and things, but sharp, specific pain, you're not. So I wasn't that out of it. I knew something was wrong, and I had to advocate while coming out of anesthesia after an 11-hour surgery. I had to say to my best friend repeatedly, Phil, something's wrong. Get somebody, something is wrong. No, it's fine. It's fine. Have your mom on the phone. Something is wrong. And I knew it. The resident comes over because, again, my doctor had to go home and rest because she had been, doing my surgery for 11 hours. And the resident comes over and he does the Doppler, but the blood flow had changed a little bit in a matter of like less than maybe 30 minutes. And he said, okay. So then he looked again and he looked down beneath my the flap, and he said, oh wow. And he told him to give me a suture kit. Basically, my body was rejecting the flap, and my boob had swelled maybe 25% in a very short amount of time, and my stitches were ripping underneath. And that's the sharp pain that I kept telling them that I felt. Had I just tried to push through and hit the pain pump and ignored it, Lord knows what would have happened. But my doctor came back to the hospital and worked on me for 4 more hours. So in a 24-hour period, I had 15 hours of surgery. And it's funny because I was supposed to have I had a radiation burn for a whole year before the flaps. So my burn was so severe that they weren't sure if anything would be able to happen because everything had been burnt off besides a thin layer of muscle. And my left boob, where Clarence is my tumor, for those who don't know, that was radiated so severely that I had to go through hyperbaric oxygen treatment. It still never healed. It was a Hail Mary. Okay. So that, going back to God's jokes, that flap had no issues ever. It was the other one. And it was like my other boob was punishing me for taking her away. And And so thank goodness I was a curvy girl. My surgeon, after I found out in the worst way that I only had one boob, that they weren't able to save it. I had one of the people that came to check on me was not there was no empathy or tact. It was just like, yeah, it didn't work. And I was like, what does that mean it didn't work? Like I didn't understand. And so I actually, going back to advocacy, I had to ask for that person not to see me again, because while I was in ICU for a whole week, that I had seen that person a couple of times and they were just it's just, it was, I needed more softness, you know. If I wanted that harsh speak, I could, you know, there are people that I could call, you know.
Sure.
So my second flap happened, what, 3 months later, in May, and I had to wait for everything to heal before they could do the second flap, and that's the lat flap, and it worked fine. But I was still in the hospital for 5 days following that, and then I had several, not one, not two, but several revisions, and I had my last revision just last year, to balance them out. And as you guys can see, you know, I believe in visual learners and accommodating everybody, but like, and I still have remnants of my burn here and then under my armpit over here. But and I like to have those remnants because I like to show people, you know, and people think it's horrible now. I'm like, no, it actually looks good compared to what it was. But for my breasts to be sitting the way that they are, and they're even, they were very uneven. This one was almost completely flat because the burn was so bad. So having all these surgeries, it you know, it became just part of my life. I had 5 surgeries in
You are so
2018 alone.
strong. You're
Yeah.
so strong.
And
You're
to
so
go
strong.
through it alone wasn't easy,
Yeah,
FYI. But, you know, again, you have that village, right? And God puts angels in your life. And that's
he
how I
does.
saw it.
You're
Yeah.
amazing. You're so strong. And, I'm so glad Clarence is, Audi 5000. He's gone because, and you just, what you've been through is amazing. Your book is amazing. Everybody get Neosho's book. It's called God Got Jokes. Sherry, talk a bit about, the adjuvant therapy. Did you have adjuvant therapy as part of your
Yeah.
breast cancer treatment journey?
Yes, exactly. In fact, my story is much different in Neosho's, and I want our audience to realize that, with cancer, breast cancer, any kind, everybody's journey is different. I actually, of course, when I was diagnosed, found out that I was HER2 positive. And I had an early diagnosis because, again, God revealed this cancer in me when nothing else could. It was discovered by the breast MRI because of my self-advocacy and wanting more than just a 3D mammography. So the cancer was found and when there was nothing wrong. So finding out that I was HER2 positive, I knew that there was going to be a treatment plan. So we launched a treatment plan, and I had aggressive rounds of chemotherapy. I had a surgery, I had radiation, I had then adjuvant therapy after all of that. Immunotherapy as well, lots of different therapies, but I was literally asking and being a very active part of my diagnosis and my treatment plan, could decide if I wanted to get the chemotherapy first, or if I wanted to go ahead and have the surgery. But with my HER2 positive diagnosis, I decided to get the chemotherapy first. And I decided to combat the chemotherapy by being very health conscious in terms of everything that I ate. I was eating the healing food, so to speak. I was drinking lots of water, and of course, going through chemotherapy. And fortunately for me, through the entire process, while I didn't feel good all the time, I was never ill from the chemo, and I had very aggressive chemotherapy. At the end of my chemotherapy rounds, I did have a complete pathological response. The nature of being very health conscious in what I was eating and exercising and staying very active as much as possible through my entire process. So my treatment plan was changed because of the complete pathological response. Originally, I was told I would likely have a lumpectomy. However, when they could not find any cancer at the end of my chemo treatments, they couldn't find a tumor. They couldn't find anything, but they still had to go in and have a surgery and remove some tissue and remove some lymph nodes, which everything turned out to be, cancer-free. So beyond that, I started asking, okay, what else is next? I did 5 weeks and 5.5 weeks of radiation, and I understand what Neosho was talking about with some of the skin burning and things of that nature. I had the radiation, and after the radiation, I said, what is next? And then my doctors were telling me about some adjuvant therapies beyond, everything that I had neoadjuvant wise. And I made a choice to get some medication that I felt like could benefit me after everything was over by trying to reduce the recurrence. And so that's kind of where I drove my treatment plan. And I'm done now with, per se, the adjuvant type treatments, possibly, but I'm also now looking at another possibility of seeing if there is yet anything else that I could lean into to continue to help with my survivorship.
So when you have adjuvant treatment therapy and you have extended adjuvant therapy for either of you, that can be a little bit hard to navigate because you go from having the adjuvant therapy, then maybe you're going to just in surveillance mode. They're just watching and seeing, just watching you, seeing if you're going to be okay. So it's more of a wait and see, right? Sometimes when you move towards extended treatment therapy, rather, this, which is called survivorship, can be more fearful because you're worried about recurrence and other emotions. So if either of you've had extended adjuvant therapy, what has that experience been like? Because, you that wait and see, that wondering is going to happen and come back before the next scan. How did you manage that?
I believe that because of my HER2 positive diagnosis, I had to have medication longer than just the traditional chemotherapy medication. So I didn't have a bell to ring. I didn't know when to ring the bell. I didn't know anything about a bell. One of my students gifted me a bell this year. And so I wasn't sure when I was done. And it was it kind of plays, it's kind of like, the Ghetto Boy song, right? My mind's playing tricks on me because I'm like, okay, so am I done? Like when am I no evidence of disease? Like, and I didn't know, can I apply to jobs, and then of course, when the radiation burn happened, I still had to continue to go to that extra, extended adjuvant treatment because of the HER2 positive, and I'm blessed to be HER2 positive because I was ER/PR negative. So I am really thankful actually for that part of my diagnosis, and there was a targeted therapy plan, and so when I finished that, it was almost like, so now what? Like I didn't know, it was one of those types of things. So then I was like, okay, I got to get ready for reconstruction, because the order of things, it depends on you. Your journey is yours. I put in the chat that my journey is mine. And I normally don't tell people in open spaces unless asked about my reconstruction and my radiation, because I don't want to scare anyone. I'm not that. It's one of those, like, I want you to be cautious, but just, be aware, notice things, advocate.
A delicate balance, right?
Yeah.
We give you whatever we have and then hope you live. And, it was scary. So it just really is, to you guys' point earlier, having your spiritual foundation is so important. Having your village is so important. Having a Marnae in your corner is so important. And Marnae, just give her a hand because we just thankful for her and what the role that you play in this, for all of us in this journey. What should we come to with you, to come to you with, to ask about, to get support throughout this journey?
Well, number one, like you guys all said, be advocates for yourself. If you know someone that's a nurse that specializes in hematology, oncology, ask them to go with you. Don't be afraid, write things down, ask questions. If there's an opportunity to someone can become a mentor, someone has gone through that, like Sherry, ask questions, call them up, be with the support groups. There's nothing wrong with increasing your faith, letting your church know. I was just at a meeting today and people said, you don't know what to say. People say, I have cancer. How can I help you? They may just want to come over and pray with you. They may just want to come over and just take your dog for a walk. Things like that will help you. So, never be afraid to just ask for assistance, especially if you are, by yourself and you don't have that support system. There's support out there. We just have to seek it and find it, and being advocates for yourself is so important. Read about it. And if you have questions like on the internet, because some of those things on the internet are not true, question it.
Yeah. Thank you all so much. I just feel so very much emotionally, spiritually fed by this conversation. So thankful for you all today. Can you all share one word that you want someone to think about or feel when they hear the words they have breast cancer and they're HER2 positive, that could inspire them? I'll start with Neosho.
I'm a wordy person, but fight.
Okay, one sentence. How about that?
I constantly told myself that fear and worry doesn't go with faith and prayer. And that was like my mantra. And that was something that it really gave me comfort. So I tell people, if you have faith, some people don't believe they have faith, don't believe in a higher power. And I am not here to judge, but if you do, you cannot be fearful and you cannot worry, because just to quote the incomparable Yolanda Adams, the battle is not yours, it's the Lord's, from her song. I know that's in the Bible too, but yeah, so going,
You just gave a whole paragraph. That was not a word or a sentence.
Yeah, I told you I'm a wordy person. I apologize.
I'm the same. I can't even ask the questions I have in front of me. I'm like, I just talk.
You're fine.
I love that about you. Thank you so much. Sherry, what is your one word? Are you one word, one sentence, one paragraph kind of person? Are you not?
Yeah, I can do one word, a sentence, or what have you, but I would say faith. Be encouraged. Be hopeful. Stay positive. Someone told me this, and I never realized how impactful it would be, but it was another breast cancer survivor. And she said, lean not into your own understanding. And that has stuck with me, because you will think all kinds of things. Your mind will play tricks on you. The medication will take you all to all different kinds of places, but lean not into your own understanding. Stop trying to self-diagnose yourself and trying to negate the power of God's healing you or the medication that you're taking. You've got to trust the process, and you've got to put your faith and trust in God and lean not into your own understanding, and be encouraged.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Marnae, what is your one word?
Never give up. I think that's it. When I was working with a lot of these patients, I was a treatment nurse, and I said, I'm going to go with you. We're going to do this together. We're going to do it. Never give up. There's so many different things out there. There's so many different drugs out there. There's so many different avenues we can take now. And I've seen over the years how treatment has changed. So never give up. Just keep steadfast and immovable. And of course, going back on what you said about you can't worry and pray at the same time, you got to pick one or the other.
Yeah, you all are really amazing. You inspired me so much. I cannot wait for people to see this video content. Those who are going to watch it and be touched by it. Marnae, thank you for being you, for all you do. Neosho, thank you for being fabulous and just so amazing. And Sherry, you are a blessing, and you have all spoken such beautiful words: faith, perseverance, power, praise, and Christ and God in this. All of this. We are thankful for you, and thanks for all the viewers who are watching right now. I'm Amy Karma, your host. And again, be blessed to have you, and be safe, love yourself, love each other, and live your best life possible. Thank you all, and bye for now. Much love.
Brought to you in partnership with Puma Biotechnology.